to the fallout from that damning report into the deaths of 3 young women at our region's biggest mental health trust.
An independent investigation found 120 failures by the Tees, Esk and Wear Valleys NHS Trust that contributed to the deaths of teenagers Christy Harnett, Nadia Sharif and Emily Moore.
Their families say the only way real change can happen is through a public inquiry, a call that's been echoed by others who lost their loved ones in the Trust's care too. Katie Cole reports.
The deaths of 3 teenage girls has shone a light on the failings of the Tees, Esk and Wear Valleys NHS Trust. But their families are not alone in calling for change. The loved ones of these men and women say they would be here today had the right care been given. Among them, the family of 40-year-old Andrew Fawcett, a dad of 3 from Middlesbrough.
I wouldn't want, children of somebody else to go through what we've had to go through, and as a family what we've had to go through.
At an inquest into his death earlier this year, his daughter Olivia fought for answers, and a coroner said they had been failed and there were missed opportunities to help him.
You sort of come with the realisation that, yeah, that's the answers that you were looking for, but the hard reality of it is that because of the missed opportunities, your dad is no longer here. If he had been seen and he had got the help that Sunday, that he would be here today.
On the 10th of September 2019, bricklayer Andrew Fawcett, who had a history of alcohol dependency, was referred to the mental health crisis team after telling his family he was suicidal. 2 days later, he was admitted to Roseberry Park Mental Health Hospital in Middlesbrough. That same day, he was allowed home on leave, with the agreement he could return at any time. On the 15th of September, Mr Fawcett called the crisis team asking to return to hospital. The inquest heard staff wrongly believed he'd been discharged. He'd been drinking and was told to sleep it off and they would speak the following day. But that never happened. He was found dead at home. He'd taken his own life.
I felt like I was in slow motion and I couldn't move. It was like my brain just couldn't come to terms with the fact that he'd gone. Everything just was like a blur, but it was all surreal, slow motion. I can't even describe the feeling, but I can take myself back to it.
The inquest heard Mr Fawcett had made 4 calls to the crisis team the day before he died, and the risk assessment carried out on the phone had been insufficient. The coroner said there had been missed opportunities to offer further support.
My dad was somebody who didn't ask for help. He never went and sought out the help himself. He knew he needed it, but he was too scared to do it himself, and to build up so much courage to ring them, to ask them to go back to a place that he was petrified of because he knew he needed the help, and to be ignored, it's devastating really to listen to and to know.
In a statement today, the Trust said our thoughts are with Andrew's family as they continue to come to terms with their devastating loss. We would welcome the opportunity to meet with them, to listen to their concerns and answer any questions they may have about his care.
Olivia has added her voice to calls for a public inquiry into how the Trust is run.
I think I want to do it for my dad, because there's nothing that I could do to help him at the time. It was beyond what I could have done to help him, so if there's anything I can do now for him that will help other people, that's what I'm doing it for.
Like many families I've spoken to, Olivia believes her dad's death was preventable. The calls for change and accountability appear to be getting louder every day.
Katie joins us in the studio now. Katie, those calls for a public inquiry, they were being heard in Parliament today.
Yes, MPs whose constituents live in the Tees Trust area, taking those calls directly to government. They described the reports published yesterday into the deaths of Christy, Nadia and Emily as being littered with errors and atrocious failings. And they also told the Health Minister that the Trust was still struggling to deliver the care that patients need.
It's imperative that we do all that we can to give the families of these young ladies what little satisfaction can be delivered by a proper and full inquiry.
The purpose of this is to secure truth, justice and change, and we need change in this environment. Hook, line and sinker.
In terms of a public inquiry, I haven't said no at this stage, but we do need to urgently address those issues. And make sure that nationally the same failings aren't happening across the board. And my concern about a public inquiry is the time that these inquiries take and whether a rapid review would be more appropriate.
The Minister said that she would make a decision in the next few days, and she also accepted an invitation by MP Andy MacDonald to meet with him and the families. Their stories are today getting national attention. Their daughters are pictured filling newspapers that will be read not just here in the North East but across the country. And the discussions in Parliament today, another step closer to the inquiries that they want. The Tees Esk and Wear Valleys Trust has said that significant changes have been made since the girl's death. And we did ask the Chief Executive, Brent Kilmurray, this week about a public inquiry. He said that it was a matter for ministers, that the trust is already heavily regulated, but he does understand where the families are coming from. Not just the families now of these 3 young women, but like we've heard from Olivia Fawcett, other families too.
It's a story clearly gaining widespread recognition. Katie, many thanks.
And a reminder that if you've been affected by anything in Katie's report, there are links to help and advice on our website.